Welcome to the Productpreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Delarzak, product development and marketing coach and mom of three. Learn from and get inspired by women entrepreneurs killing it in the product space. Each episode, we will share the latest trends, proven strategies, and inside secrets of the product world, all designed to give you greater confidence to create your own success through a product venture. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to the Productpreneur Podcast. I have a very special episode for you today. We're taking a break from the product business focus and diving into a different area. When I met this guest at an event, I knew I had to have her on the show. Meet Pamela Bolado. Yes, she's an entrepreneur, but that isn't the focus for today. She's started a movement to help end human trafficking, and she's managed to gain the support of influential women around the globe. Before we dive in, this episode is brought to you by my online course, The Product Pathway, starting on January 25th. It's a starter course and group coaching program that gets you from product idea or no idea to a validated concept, business plan, and prototype. I created this course specifically for aspiring product entrepreneurs who want to launch a product and need help to get their idea off the ground, because getting started can be the hardest part. It's the last few days to join, so book a discovery call with me this week to see if it's a fit for you, or you can sign up directly through the link in the show notes. Just go to the show notes on nicoledelarzak.com/40 to sign up. Now let's dive into the show. Born in Canada, mother of three, and a military spouse, Pamela is an ambitious entrepreneur with a big heart. While living abroad in the last 15 years, she's founded several small businesses. Pamela was born with a cleft lip and continues to be a committed advocate for Smile Train, as well as organizations that work to end human trafficking. In 2018, Pamela organized the inaugural Wellness and Wisdom Summit to bring wellness, wisdom, and purpose to the women who serve in our military. Amidst the pandemic, she launched the quarterly publication Wellness and Wisdom magazine. Pamela is excited to amplify her passion for philanthropy while creating a global community ready to tackle the challenges of today and tomorrow and make the world better for everyone. With sheer determination, the Wellness and Wisdom Collective has now become a full-circle platform from the magazine and events to a female-founded marketplace and global community for the greater good. Ultimately, she would like to inspire others to pay it forward in their communities and businesses. If not you, then who? If not now, then when? Now let's meet this amazing woman who is truly doing wonders, Pamela. Welcome, Pamela. So nice to have you here. I am so thrilled to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nicole, for having me. I really appreciate you bringing me on your podcast.
Yeah, it's so great to have you. So we met at a women's night. How do we even call it? It was like a women's holiday evening.
Yeah, for Revolution Her.
That's right, for Revolution Her, which is a women's group. And I was just so impressed by what you're creating. We had a separate conversation afterwards because I just couldn't believe what you were creating on your own, actually with a partner now, but on your own, basically, and what you've envisioned for the future. And you are doing some amazing things to support women. And we are all about supporting women on this podcast. This podcast is about supporting women who want to create product businesses, but also just women in general. So I'd love to hear about how you got to where you are. What are you creating? Tell us all about it.
When people ask me that, I try to think, okay, how far do I go back here? So I'm originally from Canada. So I'm from New Brunswick, Moncton, born and raised. I actually left Canada at the age of 21 and moved to Europe, and then actually moved to the Middle East. And I was in the Middle East before 9/11 happened, and actually stayed there for a decade altogether. And I had gone back and forth to Canada, but my entrepreneurship journey actually started in my kitchen in Kuwait. And I used to I'm an esthetician by trade. So I graduated in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia from aesthetics and continued my education as the years went on. But started my first little entrepreneurial journey in my kitchen in Kuwait, making spa products from my hands in my kitchen. So I was making skin and body products like body polishes and body oils and handmade soaps and things like that. So when I had gone back to Canada in 2010, moved back to Halifax and opened a little brick and mortar store in Bedford. And I had started Pamaya. So Pamaya was all organic skin and body products. And that was my first entrepreneurial experience. And then through some private and personal reasons, I had to close everything because of a divorce, and sold everything I had, and actually sold everything I had, packed up 2 suitcases, and moved back to Kuwait by myself with my littlest son. I had 3 boys, and went back to Kuwait. And people are going to be like, why did you go back to Kuwait with children by yourself? My ex-husband actually lived there. My 2 older boys were there with him. So went back to Kuwait, worked in a hospital there for a little bit, and then met my amazing husband, who is an U.S. Air Force pilot, and moved to the United States in 2016. So then I became a military spouse. And that sort of opened my eyes to a different side of helping women, or wanting to embrace women, because I saw what military spouses were going through, because I was now a military spouse. So I went from being a spouse to that side of war to now being a military spouse on the other side of war. So I think this just opened my eyes to wanting to help women from all over, military spouses in particular, in 2016. So in 2018, I actually developed a summit called Wellness and Wisdom, and it was to support military spouses. And that sort of grew over the last couple of years. And then, of course, this year, my goal was to take it across the country and take it to different installations and try to reach as many women as possible. Well, COVID put a dent in that one, like it did for many entrepreneurs out there and their visions for this year. But I took that, and I really made a huge pivot this year. And to be honest, it was probably one of the best things that could have happened to me. I mean, I sat in my bed in tears, and this was probably in February, because all my plans went to shreds. So how can you travel and reach women during a pandemic? So in July, I created a Wellness and Wisdom Virtual Summit. And I'll tell you, I don't have the best computer skills. So this was definitely going to be a challenge for me, but I got support, and I had some amazing organizations stand behind me on my vision and what I pitched to them. And I ended up creating this global summit. I had women from Korea, from Bolivia, Ireland, like all over the world. And that was so successful that I decided afterwards, I don't want to lose the momentum from all of these women. Why don't I create Wellness and Wisdom magazine? So I created Wellness and Wisdom magazine within 6 weeks. Never made a magazine in my life, but I knew what I wanted to do, and I had the vision in my head, and I made it happen. And I'm telling you, I created my first magazine on Canva. When I tell people this, that are actually in the magazine industry, they are blown away, because how did you do that? I said, well, that's the platform that I know how to use. So I made it work. And so now I have 3 issues under my belt. I've interviewed everybody from the Princess of Malaysia, the Princess of Kuwait, to Major General Jeannie Leavitt, who is the very first female fighter pilot. I've interviewed and become very good friends actually with Dr. Jen Welter, who is the first female NFL coach. She coached the Arizona Cardinals. It just opened so many doors for me. And I continue now to use that platform to empower women and share their stories. And then I got to interview this incredible woman called Alana, and she was the Mrs. Scotland 2018. So we got talking, and for some reason, there's this like spark of connection. You know, when you just talk to somebody and you know that they are just your soul sister.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we were talking, and we had a similar passion for ending human trafficking, which is a passion that I always stood behind. And I thought, okay, there's something that I want to do here. How can we work together to create something special? And I created Women Who Do Wonders as a part of my summit platform. And this was in 2019. And I had, a panel of women, and, they would get up and share their stories. So I thought, you know what, I want to use Women Who Do Wonders in another way. How can I do that? How can I reach more women? How can I bring us together so that we can all do more work together? So I created Women Who Do Wonders International. And I asked Alana to come on board alongside me to grow this organization so that we can bring female founders together, mission-driven women. It could be Jane down the street who just wants to do something in her community, NGOs around the world and nonprofits around the world. So imagine if all of us come together for the same purpose, instead of working not against each other, but the saying that collaboration, not competition. So what if we all collaborate together? Imagine the noise we can actually make. So Women Who Do Wonders International was born. So we're in the very beginning stages. So we're still small, but I've created a pretty exceptional board of advisors already. The platform itself will host numerous classes and master classes on how to run a nonprofit, how to be a pay it forward business, how to reach out to people and partner with people. So it's not just a platform for female entrepreneurs, because that's not what I wanted to do, because there's tons of those out there. I wanted it to be a platform for female philanthropists so that we can all join together, share our ideas, and really make a significant impact on women and children around the world. So as we're moving into January, which is Human Trafficking Awareness Month, I thought, okay, well, why don't I launch now? And, it's scary because I move fast. I'm like, okay, I have an idea. I don't want to wait. Let me just launch and see what happens. So I did that. I had the idea for Women Who Do Wonders International, and then 4 weeks later, it was born. And we've been just full force, full steam ahead, getting the platform running. Got its own private app for our members. We're reaching out to community partners and corporate partners. Our board of advisors include Jen Welter, who's come on. So she's the first female NFL coach and works with young girls in sports. We have Ashley Huffman, who actually works for the State Department in sports diplomacy, and she's trained over 10,000 leaders around the world in philanthropy. We have Princess Ramona Murad from Malaysia, Princess Intizar of Kuwait, who actually has her own organization based around women affected by war. Jazz Booth, who she had a standing ovation by Oprah, and she's been on all the TV shows, really talk shows about her organization, which helps female veterans and children who are homeless. And I have also some survivors on my board, and it is growing. Every single day, the board is growing. And all of those women have committed to being a significant mentor and advisor for this organization. So it's pretty exceptional. I'm really excited for what's to come next year. Yeah, and Alana and I are just working around the clock to make it happen. And on top of that, we just got our paperwork back for Mission Wonder Woman, which is going to be our foundation. And this organization is going to raise funds to help support our NGOs and our nonprofits that come on board Women Who Do Wonders, so that we can truly make an impact in the lives of women and children around the world.
Wow, it's incredible. Okay. That is a lot. Let's just go back. Like, you started with events and then you moved to a magazine. You pivoted, like, because I guess with COVID, and you knew that there was sort of a need for that. And then you've hit on virtual events. Then you started an organization and a foundation, and then you're having an event in January. Man, you're a busy lady. That's amazing.
So January is going to be our first event for Women Who Do Wonders International, and it's going to be called our First 100 event, and it's going to have our first 100 founding members, our board of advisors, and our partner NGOs, and we're all going to come together to brainstorm really how we can make that impact in 2021. So I wanted our members to really feel like they're a part of what's going to be built in the next coming year. So this conference is for everybody to really talk together, and it's going to be on a pretty exceptional platform where people are actually at tables, and you can move around to tables and network with people and network with our board and get information from different nonprofits and what they do for women and children. So it's pretty exceptional.
That is amazing. And why did you choose human trafficking? I'm just curious.
Well, I have an issue, not myself, but I've always had this passion about ending child pornography and all of those terrible things that happen, because I know that it happens in Canada, it happens in the US, it happens all over the world. It's absolutely horrific. And because I had lived in the Middle East for so long, I did witness things that most people probably will never witness in their life. I stayed in Kuwait during the Operation Iraqi Freedom. So after 9/11 in 2003, the US came into Kuwait and went into Iraq through Kuwait, and they threatened chemical weapons on Kuwait. Iraq did, because Saddam Hussein was still alive at that time. This is before they went in after him. So I actually stayed in Kuwait during that time. I was one of the very few Canadians that stayed there. I contacted the Canadian embassy and told them I was still there. I had my 1-year-old son with me. I built a shelter in my home, and every time the sirens would go off, I would have to we'd have to seal ourselves in.
Wow.
It was terrifying, and I saw things on TV that were just horrific. But the embassy, I remember the embassy saying, well, we have some people here, and if a chemical weapon hits Kuwait, we have convoys ready to take Canadians through Saudi Arabia and things like that. So I'm thinking if a chemical weapon hits, I probably won't make it to the convoy. But luckily, nothing horrific happened. We had one missile that hit not too far from our apartment, but nobody was hurt. So on the point of human trafficking, there are terrible things that happen in the Middle East. There are wonderful things too. I can say a lot of fantastic things about the Middle East and living there, but I have witnessed some pretty heart-wrenching things that happen there. And actually, the organization that I'm supporting in January for human trafficking is a woman out of Africa, Cameroon, who helps women trafficked out of Cameroon. And she was actually, after we started talking, was actually trafficked to Kuwait in 2015 when I was there. And
Wow.
she was trafficked there and actually escaped. She told me her whole story, and it was actually very not easy to hear, but I could relate because I understood what she was saying because I knew those things happened there. Had she said it to somebody else, they would probably not, it'd be hard for them to believe that things like that. So I've witnessed things, I know things, and it's just not right. And I think people need to hear more about it and learn more about it. And why not I talk about it? If it's not me, then who?
Right. Yeah, so it's close to your heart. Are these people like just locals that like get kidnapped? Like I don't even know anything about it. How does it happen even?
I know local women who have been trafficked. Became good friends with a woman named Chong Kim out of Texas, who was she's from Korea, but she's American. She was trafficked out of Texas at the age of 19, and as she says, was cattled with a group of 20 women to Nevada and trafficked out of Nevada. And she went up the chain, as they say, and actually became a madam. And the reason she did that was to escape. So she had to gain their trust to be able to escape. And so after she escaped, she actually wrote a book, and they made a movie about her experiences. Of course, they made it a little bit more dramatic because it's cinema. But the story is based on Chong. And if you look up Eden, and you can actually watch it for free on YouTube and Amazon Prime, but it's called Eden, and it sort of shares and touches on what can happen and what does happen in the human trafficking world. It's quite bad in places like Dubai and all over. I mean, it's
Wow.
terrible. It happens here in the United States. I could tell you stories of
Huh.
women that I've talked to in Canada. I recently talked to a woman who was trafficked in Toronto, and
Really?
her story, yeah, absolutely heart wrenching. And a lot of the time, they use tactics against these women that they will hurt their families or they will do things to them. So a lot of the times, the women feel like there's nothing they can do. And I want to also talk about the massage parlors. It's a very big trade, and it's an easy moneymaker for traffickers to use these massage parlors. And a lot of these are in like the small mini malls and places like that on the side. They usually have, what do you call it, like Google image, those images just of a lady laying in a spa bed. It's usually very cookie cutter.
Right.
And you walk in, it seems like a legitimate place, but there's a lot that happens behind the scenes that people don't know about. And I will be interviewing actually a woman out of Canada who was trafficked out of a massage parlor in Ontario. And her story will be an eye opener for a lot of people. And she's shared her story, but it's not something news or anybody puts on mainstream media. So nobody talks about it. And like people like me or people like you, people don't really know that it's happening. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You don't really hear about it. And I mean, it just shocks me to think that that's just like in our backyard, basically.
totally
You think about
understand.
it happening in other countries, but wow, it's terrible.
It's
It's,
terrible, but I mean, it is amazing that we don't know that this is happening, and we think Canada is the most beautiful country in the world, and things like this just wouldn't happen. I mean, I am writing a book, so this will kind of go out into the open, but I don't, and maybe a lot of your viewers remember in 2013 or 14, and there was a huge sweep that went across Canada on child pornography. And my son was 2 years old, and he was at a daycare in Bedford, Nova Scotia. And, there was things that were happening with his behavior. And I didn't understand at the time. I was young, I was naive. I always say we're Canadian. We just think everybody's nice and our children are happy and everything is great. That's because when I go back home, that's how I feel. So anyway, long story short, my son actually, when he got a little bit older, he had gone to stay with their dad, and that's why they were in Kuwait. And this is before I had packed up to go back. But I was sitting at the kitchen table, and I very rarely open my news on my computer. I just don't. I don't know why I did that day. I opened up the CBC or CBS News, whatever it was, and this guy popped up on the front page, and there was a title there, and I was like, holy crap, I know that person. Oh my goodness, this man worked at my child's daycare. And then I read the story, and he was arrested they found thousands and thousands of images of child pornography. He had worked for numerous YMCAs in Halifax. He was a nanny. He worked for the Boys and Girls Clubs. So I nearly fell off my chair because all these things started coming back into my mind, like my child's behavior. He used to call him my best buddy. I don't know what happened. I don't know if anything did happen, but I'll tell you, I was terrified. I contacted the investigator, who was actually based in Ontario. I called him directly and said, I'm a parent. My son was at this daycare in Bedford, Nova Scotia. This guy that you've just arrested was working at his daycare. So this investigator walked me through and talked to me about, what was going on. And he asked me to send pictures of my son because the investigators had to go through thousands of images of children and had to try to find who these children were. Oh. And I never got the call. I never got the call back from him that they found my son, thank God, but it's still in the back of my mind. So my mission in life to help women and children stems from a lot of scary stuff that I've gone through and that I've seen, and I'll do everything I can to help women and children moving forward.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Like, I think you have to have almost that mission inside of you and that big reason why to do all the things you do, because you've done so much. And most people would get burdened by negative mindset and all the things that get in our way when we are trying to do something big. But you didn't let that, you just kept going, and you've created something huge, and you're going to be creating something huge. So I think that's just amazing.
I want to tell ladies that are listening out there, I always say to myself, and I say to my husband, I'm just relentless. I just don't give up. And years have gone by where I've created all of these amazing things, but there's no money that's pouring in. And I'm not doing it because there's money pouring in. I'm doing it because I'm passionate about it. And I think one day the money will come because we're female entrepreneurs. We want money to come, right? We want to be wealthy, but we also have a soft spot, and that's just being a woman. But I think, why can't we merge those? Why can't we be successful women and still do good? So I hope my mission and my organization can show other women that, hey, we can still be successful entrepreneurs and make money and not be shameful about it. We need to feed our kids. We need to be happy in our lives, but we can still help other people. So I really want to show people that grow an organization, but create it as a pay it forward. That's my mission, is to take my businesses and always take portions of what I make and give it back to the things that I really believe in. And I just have faith that that will come back to me and, in other ways. So it hasn't happened yet, but I know it's going to happen. But first things first is, let me get my goals into place. Let me do what I want for women and children, and then the money will come.
For sure. Yeah. And I think I've read something about like women who become millionaires, they give back more. We know that they give back to society more and they do really well. So that's why we need to help women get to that position where they're successful and they're giving back.
And the stigma has to stop where women, and it's still there, where women almost feel like they feel bad to ask for the money that they wanted. They deserve to get that money and they deserve to be paid for the time that they do. And it's still there. And I have it. I still have it. And I still sometimes I would I've had 3 issues of my magazine and not asked one female entrepreneur for a penny. And I have paid out of my own pocket just to get these out into the world. But I know it will come back. It will happen. Day I'll have maybe the magazine will blossom, and I'll have companies that want to sign on and want to be in there, and they'll pay me for their time. But for the time being, I would rather share these women's stories, put their companies advertising in there, and just let them grow and be successful.
For sure. Now, have you had any sort of mindset issues when you were trying to do this, or do you put that aside?
Oh, I have, if you're talking about imposter syndrome,
Oh, any of that, like imposter syndrome and limiting
I
beliefs.
have people that say, oh, well, they say, oh, Pam, you're so incredible. You've been through so much. So I was also born with a cleft lip. So I grew up with very low self-esteem, probably the lowest, I think the lowest, not the probably the lowest of the lowest, but I say it was pretty low, and didn't think much of myself growing up. But I think as I got older and I started becoming more confident with myself, I don't know, it's just this one day something clicked and said, I don't want to say the you word. And I think I say the you word because I don't like that word. When
Okay.
you feel like when you're young and you always say, I'm so ugly when you
Right.
look in the
Okay.
mirror. Anyway, I grew out of that as I got older. And so my main goal when I actually became an esthetician when I was younger, the reason I did that is because I wanted to make other women feel beautiful about themselves, because I just didn't feel beautiful about myself. And then as I started doing that, I kind of broke out of my shell, and I remember when I started actually feeling beautiful, and I stopped looking at the scar, and I stopped looking at my nose wasn't even, and I grew out of that. But I think going through all of the things that I've kind of gone through has made me very strong as a woman. And now I'm in my 40s. I love my 40s because it's the I don't care age. Not saying that I don't care about certain things, but I don't care what people think anymore. And that is so refreshing. Yeah. And I wish that I would have felt that way in my 20s and not shied away. But I don't know, maybe it was just all of those circumstances that led up to who I am today. And it was supposed to be that way. I was supposed to go down that road. So
Right. Well, if anyone would take a look at you right now, I mean, you're gorgeous. So I think that, well, I don't know. I think you're just beautiful and beautiful on the inside and out. You're just a wonderful person. So there's hope. If you're not feeling the greatest about yourself, you just have to remember how powerful and beautiful you are.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us about all the amazing women you're meeting, because you have some pretty amazing people in your board and in your community. How have you been able to even approach these women and meet with them and get them as part of your community?
I'm going to be straight up honest. I didn't know how to reach out to people. And I'll tell you, my favorite platform is LinkedIn. And I know most female entrepreneurs are probably on there, but that has been a godsend. And I'm on the pro LinkedIn because I just like it so much. But I use that and I search everybody. I stalk everybody and I search everybody. And that's how I really connected with probably the majority of the ladies that I've connected with. And if not directly with them, I'll connect with them, talk with them, explain what I'm trying to do. Of course, if they believe in what I'm doing and they want to be a part of it, they introduce me, let's say, to 1 or 2 other people. And it's just been this constant, let me introduce you to this person. Let me introduce you to this person. And it's been so nice to be able to do the same thing for other people now, to be able to say, guess what? I know somebody and I'm going to introduce you, because sometimes you just need that one introduction, and that introduction will lead you to another introduction. So I've been just cold messaging people like there's nobody's business. And that's how I got a hold of Jen Welter. Jen Welter introduced me to 3 other women that were just absolutely phenomenal, and that I've been introduced to. And I used to live in Kuwait, so I had that relationship with the country, and I had heard about Princess Intizar and her foundation. Same thing. I found out what her email was, cold messaged her, just pitched to her, said I would love to have a chat with you if you have a few minutes of your time. And typically, a lot of these women, if you pitch what you're doing, you believe in what you're doing, a lot of these women don't mind giving a few minutes to give you a little mentorship or some insight, or it just never hurts to reach out to people. You may reach out to 50 people and only get two responses, but guess what? Those two responses will probably be the two that you really need. And that is going to guide you to the next introduction. So you just got to keep moving on, just keep reaching out. And I mean, even when I did my summit and I was reaching out for sponsors, I probably reached out to 100 organizations and I got 5, but those 5 sponsorships allowed me to be able to run that global summit. So just don't give up. You're going to get tons of no's, because I've had tons and tons of no's, but like I said, I'm absolutely relentless, and I just keep going. So
Yeah, and I think it helps when you have such a huge mission behind you as well. You know, you're working for something bigger than yourself, and you're right. Just being okay with hearing no is the biggest thing, because I know people are scared of the no's, and actually the no's are a good sign. It means you're stretching and you're growing, you're stretching, and you're doing the do. So the more no's, the better. Just aim for no's. It's basically
yeah.
what it is. Yeah.
Like the other day, I was really hoping to get Coca-Cola. I wanted Coca-Cola as one of our corporate sponsors, and I found, the partnership email for the marketing department, and I pitched to them, and it was a very cold email back. No, we're just not interested, kind of thing.
Mm,
And it was kind of like, man, it kind of stung for a second, and then I was like, whatever. They're just not. I'm not meant to have them. Let me move on to somebody else. So it stings
right.
for a second and then you just move on.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to love what you're doing. But like I said, the people that do, those are the people you want anyway. So,
Right. Yeah, I used to work for Coca-Cola actually.
oh, really?
And I can tell you
There
that
you
they
go.
pick they align with one charitable organization, one or two, I think it's one. And then that's what they go with, and they don't accept other things. So so often you have to just know that there's other reasons for people to say no other than what you might think, and not to take it personally.
Absolutely.
And the ones that will align with you or say yes are the ones that you want to lean on and appreciate. So yeah.
Yeah, because you want them to believe in what you're doing so that they support you, right? And they share and so yeah. So I
Yeah.
believe that 100%.
Yeah. And what do you wish women would do more or think or feel more if you were to give some advice to other women?
That's a hard question, because I guess I could talk for a long time about all the things. I don't know. I think it's just patience. Have patience, because I've been now an entrepreneur for 16 years, since I started my very first one. And I've had some amazing ideas, and then I've dissolved them, and then I've had more ideas and dissolved them. And I find it very significant that it took a pandemic for me to realize what I'm really supposed to be doing. And I don't know, it's just patience. It will come. And I don't know if it's something in life that turns you in the right way or what it is, but whatever you're doing, just be relentless, be patient, keep going, keep reaching out to people, because there's female entrepreneurs, there's people out there who want to help you. And I always say to people, my inbox is always open, like my front door. And I welcome people to message me. And it was like how we connected. It was just through a simple entrepreneurial get together online. And, I've connected with you on other things beyond this podcast. And I'm hoping maybe moving into 2021, we can work together. But if you don't reach out to somebody, how do you know if that person's supposed to be in your life for a reason?
Yeah, patience. I
Yeah.
love that, because we often want it to happen so quickly. I know I do. It's always like, oh, the next thing, the next thing. And we don't appreciate the journey and where we are at the moment, and that it will happen. We just need to have the faith that it's going to happen. And it's all just like meant to happen in the time that it happens. And not to say that it's just going to fall into our lap, but you can't just force it. Sometimes we force it and we try to
Yeah,
feel like it's got to work. It's got to work. And
absolutely.
yeah, for sure. That's great advice.
And it's important for women to have wellness, to really take care of themselves. Sometimes I forget, but sometimes I try to keep myself in line. And my wellness is working out a little bit. And that's just happened in the last couple of years where I've really started taking really good care of myself. And that helps me. That keeps me grounded because sometimes we don't have the support at home. And it just happens that way because, I mean, my husband's been in the military since he was 18 years old. So he's only known he has a constant paycheck every single month. He's never had the entrepreneurial itch. He's a pilot, so he's very technical. So when I talk to him, there's not a huge relation. There's no similarities there in our careers. Sometimes he can be impatient with me, and it's not his fault because he's just used to that constant paycheck. So I think if you don't have that support system at home, having your own wellness is very important. Otherwise, you're going to get discouraged. You're going to be, there's a lot of that mental, those things in the back of your head that say, you can't do this, or what are you doing, or the imposter syndrome. They can eat at you, and if you don't have that wellness, then they are going to eat at you. So just take care of yourself so that you can move forward in a positive way.
Yes, for sure. Wellness and also having a support system is so important. If I didn't have the business friends that I've met or entrepreneurial friends that I've met, I don't know if I would be in the same spot because it's hard to keep doing what you're doing when you see all these people with steady paychecks and it looks so alluring to go back to that.
Well, speaking about having that entrepreneurial connection, Revolution Her, so Maria Lockert, who's the founder, I connected with her actually when I ran my summit in the summer. So when I launched Women Who Do Wonders International, I connected with her again. And so Revolution Her has come on board as a support system for women who do wonders, for women who need that entrepreneurial support. Because we can't run a mission. We can't run, even if it's not our own nonprofit or, any fundraiser, anything that we want to do, it always ties into having a little bit of entrepreneurial knowledge. So we need to have that, right? And so that my organization isn't focused on just that entrepreneur. So I wanted to make sure that I had an organization alongside Women Who Do Wonders International that could give our women that support system. So Maria stepped in and is providing that. So that's pretty incredible.
Nice. That's amazing. Yes. So people don't know Revolution Her. It used to be the Mompreneurs, so they might know it as the Mompreneurs, changed to Revolution Her. And it's a wonderful, wonderful business organization for women. Amazing.
It's all about collaboration. See?
Yes.
Collaboration, not competition.
Yes, for sure. Working together. There's room enough for everybody. And how do you do it all when there's so much to be done? I mean, you are doing a lot. And so what tips do you have for balancing those priorities and also fitting in wellness and all that?
So there are some days where, I feel like, oh my gosh, I have so much on my plate. I don't even know where to start. So I don't do anything. And I know that there's a lot of women out there that can relate because we have kids, we have lives, we have so many things.
For sure.
But I keep my calendar beside me all the time. So I depend on my phone calendar, and I have an actual planner, and I'm a very pen and paper gal. Everything is in my planner. And if it's not in there, I know it's out the door. I will not remember it. So I just seriously live with it in my bag, and I mark everything down. I just try to stay as organized as possible. I dedicate certain days to certain projects. So I have, Mondays are dedicated to getting in there in the platform and working on Women Who Do Wonders International. Now we have Mission Wonder Woman. And thank God I have a partner in this endeavor. And I've never had a partner before. And that's been very refreshing because now we can split those responsibilities a little bit, but really just plan out my days the night before. I try to plan my week in advance. Yeah, just try to be very organized. And I plan in my time with my kids, and I don't work at dinner time because I know I like to cook for my family, so it's just little things like that and keeping on a routine. I think routine is really important.
Yeah. No, that's for sure. I'm not one of those people with the written down planner. I could never do it. I don't know. So I always admire you guys. I'm just not a pen and paper person. If you saw my handwriting, I should have been a doctor, I swear. Yeah. And you have some products that you are launching. So do you want to tell everyone about that?
So actually in 2018, started Wellness and Wisdom Summits originally. I also launched my own skincare line. So I was named Esthetician of the Year, and I was on the cover of Skin Deep magazine in 2019. So I have that background in aesthetics. Obviously, I worked for hospitals and dermatologists and things. So I wanted to have my own products that I could physically pick up in my hand. And I worked with a laboratory out of Vancouver, Canada, and developed a range of clinical skincare products. So it came in and it was beautiful. Like I did the brand, I did the bottles, I chose the bottles, the logos, I did everything for it. And then there was, I can't explain it, but I think it's because I didn't physically make it with my own hands that I didn't put a focus on it. Because once I launched Wellness and Wisdom and the summits and I saw the impact I was having on the women, I put that project aside and I focused on wellness and wisdom. So I look at my products every single day in my office, in my beautiful glass cabinet. And I thought, beautiful products, amazing skincare. I mean, the lab did a phenomenal job putting them together. And it didn't have the passion behind it. I didn't make it with my hands. It didn't have a passion behind it. So actually talking with you, Nicole, you actually sparked a little bit of twist on what I should do and maybe the rebrand that I should do for that line. So I think moving into 2021, which is what I want to talk to you a little bit more about beyond this podcast, is taking that product, relaunching it, rebranding it, and putting more of a focus on it being a brand for women and having it as a pay it forward product where 50% of those proceeds actually will go back to Mission Wonder Women. And then, so it's all about the rebrand. It's all about how when I have that mission behind it, I know that I'm going to push it even harder. It was just hard for me to push it as just my own product because I've never really done that before without really having something behind it. So I think tying now my skincare into what I'm doing now will make the biggest difference so I can push it harder.
I love that. It all comes together.
And that's the pay it forward part. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's me showing other women, hey, you can take your product and put that mission behind it and make it a pay it forward product. So you don't have to be a nonprofit or you don't have to be it's great to also make a ton of money and it not being, mission driven. But if you have that mission behind you, you can take your service or your product or whatever it is you're doing and have a percentage that goes back to what you really believe in.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, I love that. And if anyone, I couldn't believe when I saw it. It was a beautiful brand and you created this gorgeous line of skincare. And I'm going, why are you not selling this? This is amazing. So now you have even further reason to sell it because you know that money's going back to your mission. So everything happens for a reason and you definitely have to get that going.
So I'm excited. So I think big goals for 2021. Big goal.
That's exciting. So cool. So how can the audience help you, your mission, and what can they do to find you and your organization?
So right now, I actually just launched a crowdfunding campaign because as most female entrepreneurs know, there are grants out there, but it's like fighting with the sharks for one bait. It's that very hard to get a grant. And I realized that very, very soon when I started applying. So the solution was to create a crowdfunding campaign. So I found an organization called I Fund Women, and yes. they're out of New York City. So I actually know Karen, the founder, and I had I Fund Women do a masterclass at my summit, actually. So I thought, what better organization to launch my campaign? So I launched Women Who Do Wonders International on that campaign site, so that we can bring in our first 100 founding members. So the goal is to bring in our first 100 founding members and then take those funds and roll it into the marketing to really go global. So not only would you become a founding member of the organization and have a significant part in what we're actually going to do in 2021, but those funds are going to help to build our company and go global.
Cool. Very cool. So they would search for I Fund Women and find you there?
Yeah, so I Fund Women, and then you can go in the search for Women Who Do Wonders International. You can also go to womenwhodowonders.org because I got some feedback after I launched the campaign because on the campaign site, there's not an option to be able to go monthly with the membership. So we're asking people to pay that 1 year membership up front. And I soon realized that the time of year we're in, the circumstance we're in. It's not easy for a lot of women to pay that annual out in one chunk. So there's two options to coming into the organization. So you can fund us through the campaign, and we have other things on there too. So I launched a bracelet that's made with rose quartz and strawberry quartz and all those beautiful stones. And that is called the Women Who Do Wonders bracelet. So you can fund us by buying a bracelet. Some of my skincare is on the campaign. So you can buy some skincare, and that will go towards the Women Who Do Wonders, and then also the annual membership. And then if you go to womenwhodowonders.org, you can actually go and purchase monthly. So if you prefer to do it that way, you can also do it that way. But we still have spaces in our first 100. As we just launched, and you'll be a part of our very first conference with our partner NGOs. I mean, I have several out of Africa, the Middle East, Asia, here in the United States, and also in Canada that will be a part of it, as well as all of our board of advisors. So you'll be able to rub shoulders with our board of advisors and get some mentorship there. And then also be a part of just moving around and having those discussions so that we can talk about the visions for 2020. Or 2021, sorry, and what we can do together in collaboration as women.
Oh, that's so great. Okay, we're going to include all those links in the show notes. But I just want to thank you for your time and for sharing all of this amazing stories and all of your advice with us. And we cannot wait to join your group and see how we can help other women and children.
Thank you. I think big things are going to happen in 2021. And I know COVID hasn't been easy, but there's always a silver lining. And I'm definitely looking forward to that silver lining. And we have to make our own silver linings. If we're not going to do it, I always say, if I don't do it, who's going to do it for me? So.
Oh, that's such a good attitude to have. Yeah.
I learned that soon enough. You know, if you don't do it for yourself, no one's going to do it for you. You need to dig your heels into the sand and really find your grit and just go full steam ahead.
Yeah, no, that's perfect advice. Well, thank you so much, Pamela. I can't wait to see all the things that you're going to create. And I just want to thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for having me on here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Productpreneur Podcast. If you loved this episode, we'd be so grateful if you could take a sec to subscribe, share it, and review it on Apple Podcasts. Your review will help more women build their own dream product business. By the way, if you have any feedback, comments, or questions, email me at info@nicoledelarzac.com. Until next time, keep dreaming up those product ideas.